last year, and so it looked like that's some traction.
Yeah, well.
So they would pay for the certification, and then
Once you pass it, the state would reimburse you to submit your
and then they give you a bonus
costs.
every year.
And then there's a $5,000 bonus,
Wow.
which the district already offers free.
Yeah, that is worth it.
Suddenly makes it worth it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Especially if
It's a lot of
you're
work.
retired.
It's a huge amount
Yeah,
of work.
yeah, it's like a dissertation.
It's and it's 3 years. You have to finish it in 3 years, and you don't know if you passed for like 7 months.
Yeah.
It's just
And every renewal
yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah, so I'm
She
not.
just did that
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
year, I think.
Because I thought, and I don't get my cost reimbursed. You know what I mean?
You guys okay? Get ready?
Yeah, it's ready. But yeah, go
Okay, let's
It's happy. She knows I like
let's
She might.
let's kick things off. Thank you for being here this evening. I know it's harder to come in when it's so nice outside. I think and John was saying that we're going to have 4 or 5 days of really nice weather. So,
We can hope they told us.
feels like summer's been a little bipolar so far. So thanks for coming in. Let's get things going here. So I'll call the meeting to order. Looks like we have a quorum. Everybody will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Approve the agenda. Make a motion.
Second? Okay. Agenda's been approved for the record. Do you want to go to the next screen, Laura? Go to the order. We've been doing this for a while now, folks. I'm just gonna, you guys know the rhythm and the routine. Bathroom break, just let me know when you want to take one. We can wait till the end. Content warning reminder is next for our listening audience. This is a meeting of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District Library Advisory Committee. The committee's primary purpose is to review the suitability of book titles which appear or may appear in our district school libraries. The committee discusses the content of the books during their monthly meetings, and these meetings are broadcast live by Big Cabbage Radio. The substance of these discussions may be alarming to some listeners. Proviso, disclaimer. Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Yes, we can hear you. And I just realized I need to leave mine off of mute so that you can hear us, correct?
Yep. Pretty fine.
Outstanding. Okay. Sorry, Justin. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
You bet.
All right, next slide. Okay, again, resources. I'm going to expedite this. You guys are familiar with these resources. Board update. I think you guys are all aware, but for our radio audience, the committee expires June 30th. This is our last meeting. The board, there's a recommendation. The board it looks like they're not going to renew the committee next year. It does expire June 30th. That is in language. They have the right to renew it next year if they needed to. I don't know if it'll be an ad hoc basis, if there will be no need. That'll be their decision. I spoke for many of you. I think you guys probably want to go back to living your lives with your families and your evenings, and so I didn't think you would, even though you've all been outstanding, I didn't think you would volunteer to do this again. So, but it was when we started, June 30th was the expiration date. And there's 2 books that are left over, and those 2 books have been remanded to administration, and I believe those are the 2 Sarah Moss books you guys selected not to read, because there were 6 from the last meeting, so you left those, and so administration will look at those books and make a decision sometime this summer. Next slide.
So Sometimes my mouse gets a life of its own, Dr. Ainsworth.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been through this. You guys know that. Dr. Everett is not with us tonight. He decided to leave us to go fishing and go dip netting.
Wait a minute, I just had a new grandchild 20 minutes ago, and I'm still here.
He's not here.
I didn't
Yeah.
think they opened up.
I think he's on the Chitna. He's dip netting, so
All right.
he's done a great job of being a taskmaster. So I'll keep track with the time, and I'll take on that role. Before we get into this, real quick, and I don't have this on the agenda, so excuse me. I think it's really, really important that we acknowledge this lady over here. Tons of work behind the scenes. She is, I don't know when you took this job if you knew you were signing up for all the work with libraries, but she just, the behind the scenes work, getting organized, getting this room set up. She does most of the communication with you guys via email. We meet a lot, and she's always talking about, okay, what we got to think about this. What about this? This is coming up. Just kind of always out in front of things, and a real professional. And the thing about Laura, she cares about kids, and she cares about this community, and she's just a remarkable team player. And so, lots of work behind the scenes. So we all appreciate you. Okay, now we're on to our 4 books. So we will transition. You guys just kind of wanted to go in order. So I'll assume you guys want to talk about Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. So the floor is your guys's. You ready to vote? Okay, yes.
Sorry, this is Andrew. I didn't quite hear which book are we starting with?
We're starting with Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. Andrew, Amanda, I think Amanda has the floor. And then, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I can speak, but I can wait my turn.
Okay, go ahead, Amanda. The floor is yours.
Amanda Cotto. This was one of the tougher ones of her books to read. I don't know if it was just the topic or what, but it definitely was one where I had to keep putting it down, walk away, come back. I mean, it is a great insight into the life of sex trafficking, prostitution, everything like that, but it is a very hard book to read. I mean, age-wise, you could make the argument that yes, these are kids that are the same age as kids going through high school, but I do believe too at the same time, this is one of those books where it is not appropriate for kids under 16. A kid could get it at the public library. I don't know necessarily if it should be in a school library, because it was a very tough read, and I don't know if a kid should read this without some oversight from someone who is older. And so, I mean, I would definitely say it meets the statute due to the topic. With retaining it in high school or removing from all, I'm kind of just, it's that under 16, over 16, and then just the topic. I definitely don't think it should be a solo read. So I'm a little back and forth on that one. Probably leaning more towards remove from all, but it is a little bit back and forth for me on that.
Thank you. All right, the floor is yours, Andrew.
Okay, yeah, Andrew here. So I gotta be honest, I definitely agree with Amanda. I feel like I would probably go a step further and say that I do feel like the content in here and all of the scenes throughout, I had quite a few bookmarks on this here, and I do feel like it meets the statute. I'm really, this is not something that belongs in school libraries, I believe, so I'll be voting to remove from all.
Thank you. Yes, Linda.
Melinda Dale. I'll be the devil's advocate here. I don't think this book would make teenagers want to have sex. So I said no. I think you could make a case for removing it from high school libraries, but then I think, what if there was a 14-year-old girl or boy whose life was this book? And, okay, so what do they learn from the book? It's depressing, it's scary, it's sad, but maybe there's a glimmer in there that there is help available if you want it. She does have in the back her comments about the statistics and just the idea that you're not alone. So I would tend to say it could stay at high school.
Yes, Nicole?
Nicole Smith. I agree a lot with Amanda on this book. It was hard to read, and I had to put it down a lot. I also do agree with Melinda that there's some value within this book, and so I really struggled with deciding on how to vote on this book. However, I wish she had made the same lessons and points without being so explicit in the sexual encounters. That's where I struggled. Like, would I feel comfortable with a 14 or 15-year-old reading this? And the answer is no. And so I do feel like it is too much and too explicit for someone under 16. I've grown to appreciate her writing, and I think she is quite impressive in how she captures the teenage mind, and I really do respect this author for those reasons, but I do feel like this is something that could also be quite damaging for someone under 16.
Nathan here. Yeah, there's a whole lot of sexual content in the book, throughout the book. It definitely runs through the whole thing. Just one particular instance that I had flagged was on page 484, and it goes on for a couple pages. You got graphic oral sex, you got anal, you got the whole thing going on. And I do think that some people would find it very prurient, which is kind of gross, but nonetheless reality for me. So it's not a question at all in my mind.
Amber?
Amber Ranella. I'll be abstaining tonight. I actually did not finish this book. I made it to about 100 pages. But in that 100 pages, I can see I didn't get to the flagged section, but in that 100 pages, I did have that thought that was, this is a book that I'm glad we have systems in place so that I know what my kids are checking out, and I am grateful because this is a book that I would want to discuss with my child if my child chose to read it. And that was apparent even when those first 100 pages, that this is something that might need a lot of guidance in navigating. And so I'm comforted knowing that we have a system in place that allows parents to know what kids are checking out.
Kim?
Yeah, my thoughts on it are that it's just too graphic, too explicit. I don't see the value in it for very many. I deal with some children with behavioral health that have been through abuse and some of this stuff, and I would think from discussing some of these things with some of these kids and people that this would just throw PTSD right at them. And I just, if they were in high school and they were rereading this and they were living in a home where they were being abused by parents or siblings or uncles or whatever, that I just can't see a lot of benefit in it. So I'll be voting to remove it from that.
Okay, not seeing any more discussion.
I have a rebuttal.
Floor is yours, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah, just one of the things that I wanted to mention is that at least as I understand it, sexual content doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that would, I guess, push someone or a particular person to want to have sex or something. It pertains to inappropriate material, and so when we're talking about sexual content, I think it's important to remember, we're talking about that are inappropriate for a certain age group, then I feel like that thinks more to how the statute would read. And I've mentioned before that, where we've talked about the statistics of the amount of young girls who have been sexually abused just within our own community, and that would obviously show that there are also those who are doing the abuse. And then we also have young minds who are still developing, and they read this, and maybe that does excite them, and that does push them into that type of desire to either hurt young women or young boys. And so I feel like that is one of my biggest reasons for believing that this does meet the statute.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we'll put it to a vote. Laura?
Okay. So our 4 options here. Oops, let's go backwards on the slide so we can see those 4 options for this first one. First of all, we're going to decide, does this violate the state statute? Yes or no, Nathaniel Buck?
Yes.
Kara Byerly is not here in person, but she did submit her recommendations via email. She says no. Amanda Cottle?
Yes.
Katie Clark is not present. Melinda Dale?
No.
John Deal?
Yes.
Amber Ranella, you mentioned abstaining because you need to finish reading. Thank you for that. Andrew Shane?
Yes.
Nicole Smith?
Yes.
Kim Swanson?
Yes.
And Melody Wright?
No.
Thank you for those votes. The next portion of our voting is your recommendation. A recommendation: 1, retain at all school libraries; 2, retain only at high school libraries; 3, retain only at middle and high school libraries; or 4, remove from all school libraries. Nathaniel Buck?
4, remove from all.
Kara Byerly, her recommendation was 2, to retain at high school libraries only. Amanda Cottle?
4.
Katie Clark is not present. Melinda Dale?
2.
John Deal?
4.
Amber Ranella?
Not voting.
Oh, sorry, yep. Andrew Shane?
Remove from all.
Okay, that would be 4, remove from all. Nicole Smith?
4.
Kim Swanson?
4.
And Melody Wright?
2.
Whether or not the book violates statute, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. 1, 2, 3, no. And 2 pending votes, we'll say. In terms of recommendations, remove from all is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remove from all. Retain at high school libraries only, which is number 2, is 1, 2, 3 of those votes, and 2 pending votes.
Just for clarification, 2 pending, because we have Amber's and we have Katie's?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we move to our next book.
Papers.
Living
Paper and
Oh,
screen
yeah,
are
yeah.
out of sync.
Okay, The Living Dead by Elizabeth Scott. Floor is yours, team. Yes, Melinda?
Melinda Dale. So I'm really conflicted with this book because I found it very disturbing. I don't like the genre. I don't want to read about serial killers, etc. I didn't think it violated the statute, but I really thought long and hard about whether it should stay in high school. And it has won many awards, and I thought, there might be kids in high school who do like this genre, want to read a mystery. Okay, not my thing, but it was a hard book to read. I did not enjoy it.
Cole?
Nicole Smith. I didn't think that it violated the statute, but I agree it was very difficult to read and it was hard. However, I enjoyed it on some level. It kept my attention, and I read it in one sitting. I thought it was an interesting book, a very sad book, and a difficult book, but I don't think it violates the statute. And I think if someone's not into this kind of book, they're going to put it down after the first 20 pages. So I would probably vote to keep it in high school. They're going to know if they like it pretty quick.
Andrew, stay here.
Yep. Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, great. I did feel it violated the statute. A lot of graphic scenes, and I mean, I think within the first little bit of the book, I think it's describing more sex scenes and things like that, and it just continues on throughout the book. It's very, I agree with those who spoke already that it's a very difficult read. It's incredibly, in my opinion, just very disturbing content, and it's just, it was definitely one I had to put down and walk away from for a while because it was kind of infuriating to think about. But yeah, I do not think that this is appropriate for school level.
Yes. Amanda?
Amanda Cottle. So I do think this violates the statute just due to the fact that the main character is only like, I think 15 when it's happening. She was taken when she was younger. So I mean, it's pedophilia. And then also just with the talk of her, like, what the guy who took her, like, what he finds appealing, like, you know, the no hair on your body, under a certain weight, and just some of that other stuff that was thrown in there. I mean, it's a very well-written insight, again, into, like, that situation and stuff, but I feel like it did violate the statute, and I don't feel like it's, again, something that should be read without guidance, and it's not appropriate for under 16. I mean, that would just be, yeah, it's a tough read.
Ms. Amber?
Amber and Ella, I guess I'm getting more comfortable at voting contradictions after meeting. I don't think it violates state statute because I don't think it's explicit. It's disgusting, but it's implied grossness. You have to have the schema for it to be lewd and be. That said, so I will be voting that it doesn't violate state statute. I will also be voting to remove it from all libraries.
I think it does violate statute, and like I think it's pretty explicit would be page 148, 149, where, I mean, he has the girl in the car and he's trying to push her head into his crotch and then decides no, repositions her, and then like even just how it's written so that you read one word knowing that each word is being said per thrust. Like, that is very explicit in my opinion. That you're going to read that, you know what's going on, and you know he's saying this as he's thrusting into her. If that's not explicit, I don't know what is. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. Laura?
Right. First, does it violate state statute? Nathaniel Buck?
Yeah.
Karen Byerly's vote by proxy is no. Amanda Cottle?
Yes.
Katie is not present. Melinda Dale?
No.
John Deal?
I'm gonna have to abstain, the dog ate my homework. One book I didn't get to.
That's a good one not to get to.
So, fair enough. Amber and Ella?
No.
Andrew Shane?
Yes, that's violated.
Nicole Smith?
No.
Kim Swanson,
Yes.
and Melody Ray.
No.
And your recommendation, 1 through 4, we have it on the thing, the listening audience has heard it several times, so we're just gonna proceed. Nathaniel Buck,
Or remove them all.
Kara Byerly votes 2, retain only at high school. Amanda Cottle,
4.
Melinda Dale,
2.
Amber Ranella,
4.
Andrew Shane,
4, removed from all.
thank you Andrew, Nicole Smith,
4.
Kim Swanson,
4.
and Melody Ray.
4.
The results in terms of indecency, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes of yes. No is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes that it does not meet statute, and 2 abstentions or pending votes, we'll call them, pending. In terms of recommendations, remove from all libraries, that would be a recommendation of number 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 votes to remove from all libraries, and 1, 2 votes to retain only at high school libraries, and 2 pending votes.
Okay, we are on to our third book, which is, I think we're perfect. No, Handmaid's Tale, the graphic version. By Margaret Atwood. It was a television series, wasn't it? A Netflix series a few years ago?
Wasn't it book first?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause like the first book was written a long time ago.
Like in the, I think it came out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Handmaid's Tale. Yes, Amanda.
So this was an interesting one for me because I'd never read it before, and I enjoyed the original Handmaid's Tale because I felt like it was a book that insinuated stuff but never was graphic or anything. But then when you're reading it in pictures, it was definitely graphic. And then I feel like I've never been a graphic novel fan, but I enjoyed the literacy of the original Handmaid's Tale. Like, I feel like it was very well written. It was a great, like, just dystopian novel and stuff. This had zero flow. Like, I felt like stuff was missing. There was no flow. I was just like, we were bouncing around. I felt like I almost wished I had the other book kind of to compare along with it. Because, like, I feel like there were certain things missing that really helped with the other or like the original of it. And so, due to the pictures, I'm going to say violate statute, just because I don't think they are necessary, especially for kids under 16. Like, it violates statute in my mind. I probably would say it could be retained in high school for the older kids. It's that 16 line again, where I'm like, I know there's a few pictures that were pretty bad where I'm like, that's why I think it violates statute, but then at the same time I'm like, because it's missing so much stuff, I don't know if a kid's really going to get much out of this book in my opinion. So, yeah.
You could really triangulate your knowledge if you went back and watched the series.
I don't know if I want to now. I'm kind of scared.
Read the original book, watch the series. Yes, Amber.
Amber Ranella, I'm going to echo, Amanda, what you said. I don't think it violated state statute. Definitely it did contain minor vulgar images. They were not particularly explicit or graphic, but it definitely doesn't appeal to the prurient nature of the reader. But I don't know who that reader would be, because, like you said, I just don't think it made any sense unless you had actually already read the other book. So I will actually vote to retain it in high schools, but I wouldn't recommend spending money to buy it.
Too late there.
Melinda?
Melinda Dale, I don't think it violates the statute, but I will be voting not to retain it. I think the book is the book, and I didn't think this had a lot of value to be in a high school. Maybe that's the wrong reason to say what I just said, but that's how I feel.
Nicole?
I actually agree with pretty much everyone like how you explained don't think it quite violated the statute. There were some graphic images, but I don't think they appealed to the prurient interest. However, I don't think this book added value. You weren't getting the depth that you get from the novel. And there were a handful of kind of graphic images in there that, I mean, they could have been a whole lot worse than they were, but I just don't think it offers value. And I think if someone reads that and says, oh, I've read The Handmaid's Tale, I'm like, no, you're missing the whole point. So I don't think it's worth having in our libraries.
Nathan?
I mean, I think when you have pictures of a naked dude on top of a woman, you know exactly what's going on because it's there. That violates the statute. I mean, if there were no words, no storyline at all, it would violate the statute. The fact that the words on the pages are horrible doesn't make it not violate the statute. The storyline's junk. You have a picture of sex in multiple positions from multiple standpoints, not multiple positions, but yeah. So I don't see how it doesn't.
Yes. Melanie?
All three of these books are about victims in various ways. And I think what they do is they force us to look at the degradedness of what happens to the victims. Because we don't like to see it, we look away and we strip the victims of their voice because we don't like their experience. We don't want to see it. And I know that when I read Handmaid's Tale, and you know they've got the sex scenes in there, and on one of them I was like, oh, that is what's happening. And when I was reading it, I didn't have quite that picture in my head because I didn't want that picture in my head because it was so ugly. Because what was happening to the character was terrible, and it dehumanized her. These are women we're talking about in very serious, soul-breaking ways. And while I get what all you guys are saying about it, and I agree, I also think that when you're talking about kids who are coming to the Handmaid's Tale in school or whatever, and they're reading it as part of a curriculum, not understanding the context can allow you to gloss over the impact. And I understand everything you guys are saying because I'm an adult. But when you're reading this with kids, and it is a cautionary tale, we all know this, that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, but this isn't aimed at us. We're not the audience. So I do see the value. It's not something I would pick up and read, but I get why they did it. I understand why the publisher went this direction with this, because it's meant to accomplish something in the minds of young adults.
You know what, Andrew?
Yeah, so I'm actually glad that we did end up reviewing this book since I read it already. So this was very easy for me to get through pretty quickly. I do feel like, well, here's the thing. With The Handmaid's Tale, when we're talking about the novel, I think that it is a really good precautionary tale. It is something to remind everybody that, this is what could happen if we didn't have our rights that we have today. And that's why it is so important for so many people to be educated on that and understand that, if we don't have those Bill of Rights to protect us, this is the kinds of things that could happen. It seems a little bit comical to me that it's always seemed to be aimed at almost I guess you could call it either a Judeo-Christian type idea, because it can come in so many different forms, and Handmaid's Tale being no different, but as far as many of the stories are told. But as far as this book is concerned, as the graphic novel, it was, I think I struggled with my vote on The Handmaid's Tale because it it was, it kind of rode the line a little bit, and was really close, but also something that I felt was important for people, people to read. I don't feel like when we start having pictures of naked people having sex, whether it's a super grotesque scene or it's, it's just like porn. No, it's porn. Like, that's not something that should be in our schools. So I do believe that this meets the statute. The entire book does kind of revolve around sex in a sense, right? Like, it's all about
Andrew,
being.
sorry to interrupt. 10 more seconds.
Yeah, I'm at my time. I will be voting to that it does meet the statute and to remove.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other comments? Okay.
I had
Nathan.
one. I agree with what one person already said, is that so far these 3 books, they have been a lot about victims, and we have read a lot of other books that have been about victims. One goal I have in my voting is, yes, I do want to protect the victims. I do want their voices to be heard. However, I also know that there are perpetrators that will read said books from that perspective. And the best protection we can give to a victim is to do nothing to encourage the perpetrator, someone who would read these types of materials, and for their own personal prurient interests of sorts. There are plenty of books that we have read, and there are other books out there that give voices, and I'm trying to blank on the one about the sex trade in like Nepal. Sold, that one. That one was super intense, but a fantastic book. I thought it did a fantastic job of giving a voice to the victims.
5 seconds. Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll put it to vote.
First of all, does this meet the statute for indecency for materials offered to students under the age of 16? Yes or no, Nathaniel Buck?
Yes, it does.
Kara Byerly via proxy says no. Amanda Cottle?
Yes.
Katie Clark is not present. Melinda Dale?
No.
John Deal?
Yes.
Amber Ranella? No. Andrew Shane?
Yes.
Nicole Smith? Kim Swanson?
Yes.
Melody Wright?
No.
And next, what is your recommendation for the book? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Nathaniel Buck?
Or remove from all.
Kara Byerly votes 2, retain at high school only. Amanda Cottle?
4.
Katie Clark is not present. Melinda Dale?
4.
John Deal?
4.
Amber Ranella?
2.
Andrew Shane?
4, removed from all.
Nicole Smith?
2.
Kim Swanson?
4.
Melody Wright?
2.
All right, in terms of statute, the vote outcomes were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes of yes, that it violates state statute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of no, that it does not violate state statute, and 1 pending vote. In terms of recommendations, excuse me, the number of votes for number 4, removed from all school libraries, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 votes to remove from all school libraries. And in terms of retaining only at high school libraries, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for that, and 1 pending vote.
All right, thank you, Laura. All right, our last book is Perfect, another book by Ellen Hopkins. We've read a couple of her books this year.
Yeah.
Can I, I'm sorry to break protocol here, but I am going to have to leave the meeting here in just a few minutes before we get to vote. Is it possible I could add my closing comments or add the rest of my votes on the rest of this vote?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, well, appreciate it. Yeah, Andrew Shaner. I just, honestly, if anything, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has volunteered their time, whether or not we agree on these books. You guys took the time to read them, to go through them, and in hopes to see a better community. So thank you to everyone for volunteering and stepping up, and also a special, I want to echo the shout out to Laura for all the hard work she's done. It's been amazing having her being able to help keep us on track. And with that, I believe that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate your time.
And I have his feedback or his votes for this one to share when we are ready for that too.
Okay, perfect. Have a good summer. Be safe.
All right, you too. Thank you all.
Melinda?
Melinda Dale, I just would like to draw the committee's attention to the author's note at the end of the book. I think we all have a copy. I really appreciated what she had to say, and I realize she's not a therapist or a psychologist, but I thought her message was very positive for teenagers, and she made some excellent points. And then on the next page, there are statistics to back up that this book has a lot in it that could apply to a lot of different students, children in high school. And I just thought it was a good message to kind of sum up. Melody used the words cautionary tale for The Handmaid's Tale, and that's what I wrote on my rubric. I mean, she's speaking to the dangers of perfectionism, and yes, she explains how these kids got there, how they ended up feeling the way they did, and what it led to, and it was really disturbing. The plastic surgery was as disturbing to me as the steroid use and the anorexia and the suicide and the rape and. All that said, I don't think it would encourage teenagers to have sex. So I would say no, and I would vote to leave it in high school.
Yes.
Melody Wright, this was my favorite of her books that we've read. I think because I definitely, finally, related to what the kids were facing in there. Perfectionism in my family was definitely something that a lot of parents push, and my own did as well. And I had a lot of friends who were these kids. Like, I could have substituted their names in for them, and it brought me back to that time. And she is very gifted at interpreting the adolescent mind and what they concentrate on, what they see as important, what they're told is important, and that they internalize. And I thought it was a little bit, the cover is even different from the other ones. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's much lighter color because she isn't veering into it as dark, but definitely, I think, more common experience than the extremes that we've seen in some of the other books of experiences in adolescence. So I thought there was a lot. It will speak to a broader swath of kids in high school, I think, than her other books might, depending on where the high school is located.
Yeah, I think that's important. As adults, we know that perfectionism is not attainable, but we have seen kids. Amber probably sees kids. You guys see kids who fall prey to that, and it's something that we have to intervene in early because it can be a trap for sure. That's unhealthy. Yes, Nathan.
Not a ton of disagreement with some of what has just been said. However, the ends do not justify the means. The moment you go down that rabbit hole, that's a slippery slope that leads to very, very bad places. The book does contain, and this is really the only metric by which we ought to be judging things, not whether or not we agree with part of the message being sent. The book does contain some pretty explicit, I think, period type of sex scenes. So, just right in the middle of the book, you know, I mean, you have the guy's inner monologue as he's about to have sex with this girl, and then he ends up going against her consent because he's so driven by his own pure interests. I mean, that seems to violate every aspect of the statute in my book. Yeah, I mean, and it describes it, and it's, again, it's a scene of abuse, it's a scene of rape. I think it most certainly qualifies as rape. And again, to protect the victims, you don't want to re-victimize someone who's had that done to them, because we all know it happens far too often, sadly. That's another aspect of it, that we ought to protect the victims. But then it does, everything about it, up to that point especially, does appeal to purity, because purity is what is being portrayed in that scene. An uncontrolled, purient drive. If that makes sense. The ends don't justify the means.
Nicole?
I agree with pretty much everything again. I actually appreciated that rape scene because although it was hard to read, I think it is so common for girls, A, to not know they were raped and not to understand that that's what happened, and then B, for guys not to realize that's what they did. And so I think having that portrayed is actually a positive because it just, they do explore that, was this rape, when him saying he didn't and her saying, yeah, you raped me. I think that's something that actually doesn't get talked about quite enough, where that line is. And I think it is a good cautionary tale. I think it's a cautionary tale of that, along with steroids. And I mean, they were talking about side effects in there that I hadn't known existed with steroid use. And so I do think this was a good warning book. I don't think it was written in a way to make somebody want to go out and do things. I think it was written as a, these are the outcomes that can happen if we aren't careful. And so I appreciated this one. I don't think it quite violated the statute, although it did cover sensitive and difficult materials. I personally don't take that if there is discussion of sex, that automatically makes it indecent. I think there are different ways to discuss sex. Whether it's explicitly and vulgarly, or whether it's a little more general, broad, and with a cautionary element to it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say it violates statute just because it has that scene. On the other hand, though, for this one, I am for sure voting to retain in high school, because I do feel like it wasn't as dark, like with a lot was said before. Like, it's not as dark as some of the others. Like, the hardest part for me was really just bouncing from character, like, oh, we're switching again, like, new person, and like trying to remember what I had previously read about. Like, that was the hardest part for me, was just retracking through. Like, I almost wish I was tabbing as it switched, so I could just like be like, okay, where did I leave off on that person? Like, let's start again. But I do think this one was very well written for that high school experience, where it didn't go as dark. Did have, I mean, a tough scene where I feel like for under 16, yes, it violates the statute, but I would vote to retain it in high school because I feel like it does talk. It hits a lot of those high school topics where it is very well written, and I don't feel like it was too explicit for those, and it just hit so many of them so well. So.
Okay, not seeing any more commentary. Laura, I think we're, John?
Yeah, I appreciate what Nicole said. I appreciate what Deanna said. Having had a good friend who was anorexic and watched it ruin her life, and I really question whether this will be I'm not sure if she had read this book, it would have made a difference. I will tell you, over this journey, sometimes it pays to read closer. I didn't realize how you could read things in. I'm going to reread a sentence to you. It's under question 1. It says, if yes, circle, please assert which conduct is or depicted by placing a check mark. What does the term depicted mean? This whole time I've had it in my head, graphic. doesn't have to be graphic. So now I'm applauding what you've been doing. So I think, again, you know, I appreciate that. I really do. I got another person who was same experience. It's a tough book. It's the damn dilemma, isn't it? 16. Yeah, I have no problem with a 17 or 18-year-old. I have a real problem with people 15, 14. So what am I supposed to do? Divide the baby? It's not fair. It's not fair.
Thank you, John. Okay, Laura.
Ready to vote? Okay.
So.
First, all right, here we go. First vote, does this book violate state statute? Nathaniel Buck.
Yeah.
Kara Byerly via proxy, no. Amanda Cottle.
Yes.
Melinda Dale.
No.
John Deal.
Boy, I tell you what, I hate this. This is one time I'm going to go against me and say no. It just.
Amber Ranella.
No.
Andrew Shane via proxy, he emailed this one in. He said yes.
You feel good now.
Did Andrew provide commentary as well?
Let's see.
The comment earlier was just his closing comment, not an actual
He
book.
said has an incredible amount of sex scenes while not incredibly descriptive. The entire book appears to be aimed at sexually exciting the reader. And so he is saying that yes, it violates the statute. Nicole Smith.
I want to make a comment. I echo that this is very difficult to draw that line, but I say no based on the overall view of the book.
Yeah.
Kim Swanson.
So I agree.
Yes, it does matter.
Melody Ray.
No.
In terms of recommendations of 1, 2, 3, or 4, Nathaniel Buck.
4.
Kara Byerly, 2, retain only at high schools. Amanda Cottle.
2.
Melinda Dale.
2.
John Deal.
2.
Amber Ranella.
2.
Andrew Shane voted 4, removed from all school libraries. Nicole Smith.
2.
Kim Swanson.
4.
And Melody Wright.
2.
In terms of our vote outcomes, a yes vote that it violates state statute, that was 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for yes. No, it does not violate state statute is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 votes of no and 1 pending vote. For recommendations, a vote of 4, removed from all school libraries, 1, 2, 3. Votes of 2, retain only at high school libraries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And pending is 1.
Okay, perfect. Let's move to take a 5-minute bathroom break, and then we'll come back and wrap things up. Does that work?
Yes.
And before we do that, real quick, I guess I already mentioned this. These are the 2 books that are pending evaluation, have been remanded to administration. Sarah Moss books. I already mentioned that. So let's take a 5-minute. Nicole.
Do we need a bathroom break, or do we just want to wrap it up?
Well, I've got to grab something. Yeah. I forgot that.
All right, we're just being quick.
You could go grab them, and I could stay and wrap it up. There's a box outside my office for these guys.
Are these special bookmarks or something?
No. Yeah.
Here's for all your time. Here's a bookmark.
Yeah.
Get a full series of the courts.
Yeah.
Here's a gift card. Here's a gift card to Barnes and Noble.
Burn barrel.
The series we didn't read.
I would be willing to
Throw in a glass.
on my own time,
So as we wrap things up, and we'll just do some concluding comments. Don't feel pressure to have to say anything. I've been thinking most of you are on this committee partly because you're readers. I can tell you're readers. I wonder if you need a break from reading this summer, potentially. I know as a reader myself.
Cleanse the palate.
Yes. Different books. Yeah. I know going into summer, as a reader myself, I always, I'm reading all the time, but it tends to be work stuff and technical stuff, and I love, I was a history major in college, so anytime I can just pick up nonfiction history, I do. So I look forward to that in the summer. But there's two things for me out of this committee that I reflect back on the last, 9 months. One, what has happened here is what we want to teach our children how to do. This is what's important about school, that we can get into a room and we can talk about literature, we can talk about history, we can talk about whatever it is in a safe space, and we can disagree respectfully. We can sit there and listen to somebody like you guys have just been amazed. You read the book, and almost every time you guys talk, there's a different perspective. I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about that. And that's really instructive for our kids. There's times where I've thought it'd been nice if we had some of our kids here to watch model the decorum and the discourse. Because I know you guys don't agree on everything, but you're civil about it. And those are the skills that we're really, and I know you're trying to teach that in your classes with your high school kids. Those skills are so critical for when they end up in the adult world and the professional world, because one of the most important things that our kids are going to have to learn is to navigate a world where not everybody always agrees with them, right? And the ability to articulate their perspective maybe in front of people who disagree with them and stand up for themselves, right? And so you guys, it's just really been amazing. I've enjoyed just being a part of the process. So that's really been just out for me. That's something, a reflection too. Is just, again, I say it all the time, just I appreciate your commitment. The district appreciates your commitment. The leadership, Dr. Trainee appreciates your commitment. The school board, you guys have just done an amazing job, and it's outstanding to be around people who are committed to our community. This was needed. I know it's been controversial, but we should do this more often, regardless of what it is. We should get into rooms like this. It doesn't have to be about books. It can be about a lot of things. And just get into a room with our community members and talk, right? And figure things out. So really appreciate your guys' time. Wish you the best of luck this summer. Be safe. Remember, the lakes are still cold. The lakes are still cold. So we'll just go around the room, popcorn, and don't feel any pressure to say anything.
Well, I feel like I have to say something, because I think this has been an incredible journey with a bunch of, camping mates. I will share something, because I've shared this with Dr. Ainsworth. This was a catalyst for me starting a philosophy group. We're called the Philosopher's Table. And I got one of the best compliments by a guy who teaches a class in philosophy, a college class in philosophy. He said it was so fresh and refreshing to go to a group and sit down and talk about diverse, controversial, political, ideological, philosophical ideas, and not end in a fist fight. And I think what we did is we sort of modeled it after you guys. Don't pat yourself on the back too much. But the fact that you had a framework and everything, I don't want to repeat what you just said, but you have to think about the catalyst you were. We're on sabbatical for the summer, but I get texts from these people and they can't wait to get back. I have since found that we are not alone. I've run into a lady in Iowa that has a philosophy group. Much the same, I ran into a lady in Virginia, the same thing. Mm-hmm. Did you know this? I had no idea. So, thank you for, I learned a lot. I actually changed my mind today. Anyway. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Yes, Nicole?
I also appreciated this opportunity. I feel like I learned a lot throughout it, and I do appreciate that we were able to have very civil discussions and have differing opinions and still remain respectful of one another. Through social media and in person, having children in school still, I of course hear the common arguments that, oh, they're trying to ban all these books, they're trying to ban all these books. And I've had the opportunity to say, listen to a meeting. Like, listen to how we talk about these books. There is no one there who's like, get rid of all the books that might be slightly controversial. We are very thoughtful in our discussion of our recommendations for a reason. Like, we want to do what's best for the children, and we want to teach them to be critical thinkers and not always throw the baby out with the bathwater unless the bathwater is way too murky. So I've appreciated the opportunity to try to educate other people about what's going on, and don't just read headlines, and don't fall into narratives, and don't fall into catchphrases that people like to throw around. Like, find out what's really happening, and take that opportunity to do your research. I think when this started, people thought we were all going to be here like a bunch of Nazis. And I mean, our first meeting, we had a lot of people in the audience, and now we're down to just a handful. And I think people there were trying to play the gotcha game and trying to demonize the committee, when I feel like it's actually been a really incredible process.
Thank you.
You know, that's the power of literature, right? I mean, this is the power of literature. This is why books are important. Even controversial books are important because they give us the grounds to have thoughtful conversations where we get the opportunity to practice disagreeing, but also practice listening and hearing other people in a safe manner. That's the power of literature, and why controversial literature is important when it's read, not taken out of context. And, you know, I think we've illustrated that so many times over the course of this conversation, or these conversations. It's a wonderful vehicle. It's a great place for us to foster capacity and learning. These would never be the books I would choose necessarily for that. But even with these, which were not the ideal books to use, we still have the opportunity to have really fantastic conversations. And it just always brings me back to the power of literature. That's all I have. I got nothing. And thank you for reading all of it with me, because it was a slog.
Do you have a timer for this?
I do feel badly that I didn't finish that last book. That just drove me crazy.
No, I agree with everybody. I really appreciate everybody here and their comments and just working through some of this together. And I will say that I'm glad that we didn't have to deal with questions from the audience. I think that would have been really extremely difficult. I don't think we would have made as much progress in this journey, as you're calling it, John. But I do really appreciate everybody. It's neat to meet other people in our community, and see you in the grocery store. Have a great summer and all that stuff.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, I came to this because I had read about 80% of the books that were on the list. So I was like, oh, no problem. But then I had to reread, and it was difficult, as all of you guys acknowledge that life, is busy, and you have to set aside time, and whether you want to read it or not, you just have to get it done. But I really liked what you said, Justin, about education not just being about content, but being about different viewpoints and being able to think about those viewpoints and allow them to unlock your own thinking and unlock your own position, and to be aware that your viewpoint isn't the only one that matters and isn't the be all end all of everyone who doesn't agree with you, they should all die. So, and I think, kids are very black and white. We come into that world, when they're 10, 11, 12, they're very, it's not fair, right? It's not fair. And getting to that point, right, yeah, we still are that way, requires some nuance in your thinking and the understanding that your ego shouldn't be primary in the way that you approach the world. And as I go forward the next year teaching, because I do a lot of discussion-led teaching in my class, the kids definitely it's so fun to watch them from the beginning to the end of the year and how they progress and how they treat each other. Because I really think that is the biggest value of a public education is exposure to people who aren't like you, and respect for them, because you get to know them on a level, even if they're not like you.
Well,
Thank you.
I want to start by thanking Nathan, because without that very first meeting when you wanted to limit comments to 90 seconds, this would not have been as enjoyable as it was. So thank you for that.
Good move, Nathan.
The things about this committee that were joyful to me were the leadership.
No, thank you.
Both you and Reese and Laura's communication was phenomenal all through the, what do I call it? The tenure of our
The journey. We call it the journey.
But I just really, there isn't a person on the committee that I wouldn't enjoy having coffee with sometime or saying hi to in a store, and I appreciated the structure of it. We were able to make comments without worrying about repercussions. I think it was very important to have the forum be discussion among committee members only, and I think that's why it worked as well as it did. So thank you, and it's been a good experience, and I'm not going to lie, I'm happy this is the last meeting. I've got a stack of books at home that I want to read.
Right. Thank you, Linda. Amanda, Nathan, no pressure.
I don't know if I can make an eloquent speech like everyone else, but I mean, I enjoyed the time on the committee. My kids are still kind of young, so we're like, I mean, my oldest is just turning 10, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, it was kind of cool to get in on something like this, where I was always a reader, like part of the reason I was interested in it, but with young kids, I truthfully haven't really read seriously in probably 2 or 3 years. So they were hard topics and hard books, but I actually have now finally revitalized my library card. My kids all had library cards, but mine had expired. It had been that long since I personally had checked out like a library book. And
They didn't rhyme.
Yeah.
It's kind of phenomenal.
But so like now I've actually revitalized my library card. I have books at home where I'm like, I threw a few in to like break up some of these and stuff. But I'm like, I'm back to reading instead of watching TV at night. And so it's one of those where it's like kind of touched me back into like one of those things where I enjoy this and it's good. And like reading the different topics, I have actually looked into a few different things or different authors or like other books by authors. And so just as a personal point, like it just kind of opened your eyes to like different stuff out there, which is nice. And I did enjoy respectful conversations that we had and just the different viewpoints, because there were times where it was like, I don't know what I'm going to vote, and then you get to hear everyone's point, and it does help you like kind of be like, oh yeah, there was that, like, because you might forget little details, or you might be like, that's a good point. And so I enjoyed the conversations we had and stuff, because there were some times where it was a tough decision, which I mean, and everyone knows, you know, the high school, the under 16, but we're still in high school debate of the whole year, but yeah.
Thank you. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the discussion. Not many of the books did I enjoy. But I've enjoyed that it allowed me an opportunity to read a lot of things outside my normal purview. I rarely read fiction, so this was all fiction. So I'm very appreciative for much of that.
Thank you. The last thing I'll say, as I was listening to you two speak about students and discussion, when I first started, I taught high school history for 10 years. And we're all products of our own experience, right? And I was fortunate to have just a fabulous mentor teacher. He was amazing. And he said, remember, your job isn't to teach history. Because I was coming out of college, out of graduate school, I loved history, right? I had a history degree, lots of research, lots of reading. Because your job is to teach them how to think. I always remember that. And he says, they need to think about history in different perspectives and different values and how things happen and talk about it and read about it and write about it. He goes, if you can do that, you've set them up for the rest of their life, because they're going to take that skill and they're going to transfer it into all the other academic skills, and they'll take that skill into adulthood. So this is just a perfect illustration of that. Thank you for your time. There's a small gift token of our appreciation, Kim.
I wanted to also say best wishes. You're leaving.
Oh,
us.
thank you.
And
Yeah.
I don't know when you're moving and whatever else, but
Yeah, a couple weeks.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
This-
I'm going to Oregon
He's
as a
good.
superintendent.
He's
Yeah.
had
I'm actually going back to where I'm from. Yeah. So I'm super excited, but I got to tell you, it's
It's
mixed.
not the Tacoma one, it's
No.
the Oregon one.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
There was a while there. Nobody knew what Justin was doing. Justin didn't know what he was doing. Well, Coos Bay on the coast.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's where I'm from originally.
And how many schools are you superintendent over?
Well, it's lots smaller. 3,500 kids.
But
So
that's a beautiful place.
yeah,
Really.
7 or 8 schools. So it's a lot smaller. But it's typical. Oregon, Washington, they kind of split up there. Every town has a school district.
We're excited for you.
Thank you.
Mm.
It's a hard decision. Yeah, I mean,
Hard
it's hard.
decision.
I'm not leaving because I love it here, the community, the people, the team. It's really hard to leave. So thank you.
Justin, if the meeting has come to a close, I'd just like to say something since I've spent a lot of time with you as well. First thing,
Identify yourself for the audience, please.
Mike Malevsky with Big Cabbage
There you
Radio.
go.
There are 2 things I want to say. One, if I do not put up the recording immediately, I am contacted to ask where the recording is. So I just want to tell you that you do have an audience, okay? But the second thing is, I'm occasionally asked what happened at the meeting. Now, you can go to a basketball game and say, well, what happened to the game? Well, they won. This is what happened. These books went where, so on. I do not tell people that kind of thing. I say, go watch. I do put up videos, and I have the sound, and I say, you cannot understand what happened unless you watch the discussion that you have all been engaged in and have talked about. Because the end result is not the point. Everything you have said about a discussion is the point. So I push people to say, take a little time. You don't have to necessarily listen to everything, but just listen to how that came to be. So your process is not only contained in this room, but it is out and about. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Big Cabbage Radio. You guys have been committed to the cause, from day one. All right, thank you, folks. There's a small gift. Safe travels.
Also, I would add, if you have any books that you're home and discover, oh my gosh, this was hiding behind my couch. Mr. Cobbs is open. I'm gone as of tomorrow for the rest of the summer, but